So this woman gets so pushed to the edge, so completely broken by her husband's toxicity, that she waits until he passes out drunk, grabs a kitchen knife, and literally performs unauthorized surgery on his manhood. I'm not talking about a little nick. I'm talking about a full-on amputation. She slices it off, grabs it, jumps in her car, and drives away with the thing still in her hand like it's a souvenir from the worst vacation ever. This isn't a horror movie, this isn't an urban legend, this is the 1990s, and this is the story that made every single man in America sleep on his stomach for a decade. You think you know the story of John and Lorena Bobbitt? Trust me, you don't know the half of it. We are talking about Marines, abuse, high-speed chases, 7-Eleven hot dog boxes, and a media circus that completely lost its mind. Welcome to one of the most insane sagas in American history. Let's rewind the tape. We are going back to the late 80s. The hair is big, the music is synth-heavy, and in Virginia, we meet a young woman named Lorena Gallo. She's 20 years old, originally from Ecuador, living the immigrant dream. She's sweet, she's studying at a community college, she's working hard doing nails, trying to make a life for herself. She's got everything going for her. And then she meets John. John Wayne Bobbitt. Even the name sounds like he's trying too hard to be an American hero, right? He's 22, he's a Marine, he's handsome in that rough around the edges kind of way. They meet at a Marine Corps ball in 1988. It's classic, right? The uniform, the romance, the dancing. Lorena looks at this guy and thinks she's found her Prince Charming. They hit it off immediately. It's a whirlwind romance. They're inseparable. Within a year, they're married. And looking at the photos from back then, you'd think, wow, good for them. Young love, the American dream. But you know what they say about things that look too good to be true? They usually are. Almost immediately after the wedding cake is cut, the reality sets in. And the reality is that John Wayne Bobbitt is not Prince Charming. He's not even the court jester. He's a nightmare. John gets discharged from the Marines, and suddenly the discipline and the paycheck are gone. He has trouble holding down a job, he's bouncing around, not really contributing. So who has to step up? Lorena. She's working constantly, carrying the financial weight of the entire household on her back while trying to go to school. And look, financial stress is the #1 killer of marriages, right? But this wasn't just about money, this was about John's favorite hobby, drinking. The guy liked to party. And when I say he liked to party, I mean he liked to get absolutely obliterated and then come home and take it out on his wife. We're talking about a cycle of abuse that is honestly hard to listen to. According to Lorena, the physical abuse started about a month into the marriage. A month! The honeymoon phase didn't even last 30 days before the shoving started, then the punching, then the psychological torture. The police were called to their house constantly. It was a war zone. But like so many people in abusive relationships, Lorena felt stuck. She's young, she's in a foreign country, her family is far away, and she keeps hoping, praying that the guy she met at the Marine Ball is still in there somewhere. But he wasn't. Things get darker. Lorena gets pregnant. For many couples, this is a moment of joy. For John, it's an inconvenience. He allegedly tells her she'd be a terrible mother. He pressures her relentlessly to get an abortion. He doesn't want a kid, he wants his freedom. Lorena, feeling cornered and beaten down, goes through with it. And that is the moment the resentment hardens into something else. That is the moment the love officially dies and is replaced by a cold, hard rage. Does any of this sound normal to you? Tell me in the comments. At what point would you have packed your bags and run for the hills? Because honestly, I think I would have been gone after the first red flag. Fast forward to 1993. They've been married for a few years, but it feels like a lifetime. They are basically enemies living under the same roof. They've both hit their limit. Lorena is actively trying to get a protective order against him. John is talking about divorce. The marriage is a rotting corpse, but neither of them has buried it yet. The tension in that apartment is so thick, you could cut it with a knife, pun absolutely intended. It's June 23rd, 1993, a humid, sticky night in Manassas, Virginia. Lorena is at home, trying to sleep, probably dreading the sound of the front door opening. John is out. He's doing what John does best. He's at a bar, pouring alcohol into his system like it's water. He's with a buddy, he's getting wasted, and he's getting aggressive. Sometime in the early morning hours, John stumbles home. He is blackout drunk. Lorena is sleeping in their bed. John bursts into the room. He doesn't care that she's sleeping. He doesn't care that she wants nothing to do with him. According to Lorena's testimony in court later, and this is the part that usually gets left out of the jokes, he forces himself on her. He sexually assaults his own wife. This was 1993. The concept of marital rape was legally recognized. But socially, a lot of people thought, well, you're married, it's his right. Which is absolutely insane, but that was the climate she was living in. After he's done, he doesn't apologize, he doesn't comfort her, he just rolls over and passes out. Imagine the scene. He's snoring, passed out cold, oblivious. And Lorena is lying there, traumatized, violated, and seething with a rage that has been building for years. She gets up, she feels sick, she needs water. She walks down the hallway to the kitchen. Her mind is racing. She's seeing the bruises, she's remembering the abortion, she's feeling the assault that just happened. She is disassociating. She enters the kitchen, she pours a glass of water, and then her eyes land on the counter. There it is, an 8-inch carving knife, a red, jagged handle. She stares at it, and in that moment, something snaps. It's not a rational thought, it's not a pros and cons list, it is a primal need to stop the person who has been hurting her. She picks up the knife, she grips it, she turns around and walks back down the hallway. Now put yourself in this hallway. It's dark, it's quiet, the only sound is the drunken snoring coming from the bedroom. What is going through her head? Is she thinking about prison? Is she thinking about the news? No, she's thinking about survival. She walks into the bedroom. John is lying on his back, completely exposed, completely vulnerable. The irony is staggering. The man who used his strength to terrorize her is now defenseless because of his own vices. She approaches the bed, she pulls back the sheets. Real quick, hit subscribe because the story is about to go completely off the rails. You think you know what happens next, but the details are wild. She stands over him. She does not hesitate. She grabs him, and with one swift, violent motion, she slices. Clean through. John wakes up, but he's so drunk, and the shock is so immediate that he doesn't even register the pain at first. He just feels a change. He looks up, confused. Lorena doesn't scream. She doesn't explain. She is in a state of total panic and shock. She is holding the severed appendage in her hand. Just picture that for a second. You are standing in your bedroom holding your husband's manhood. What do? Do you drop it? Do you put it nice? Lorena does neither. She runs. She runs out of the apartment, down the stairs, and jumps in her 1991 Mercury Capri. She still has the knife in one hand and the, well, evidence in the other. She starts the car, she peels out of the parking lot, she is speeding down the road, hyperventilating, she's driving one-handed, and then she realizes, oh my God, I am still holding it. She looks at it, she screams. She can't have this thing in her car. She's approaching an intersection. There's a field with tall grass next to a 7-Eleven. She rolls down the window. She winds up like a baseball pitcher, and she chucks it out the window. It flies through the night air and lands somewhere in the dark grass. She keeps driving. She doesn't stop until she gets to her boss's house. Her boss, a woman named Jana, is also her friend. Lorena bangs on the door. Jana opens it, half asleep, and sees Lorena covered in blood, choking, looking like she's seen a ghost. Lorena looks at her, eyes wide, and says the sentence that would be printed on t-shirts for years to come. I cut it off. Jana's confused. You cut what off? Lorena says, his penis. I cut it off. Silence. Absolute silence. Jana blinks. We need to call the police.
Meanwhile, back at the apartment, the alcohol is wearing off and the pain is setting in. John Wayne Bobbitt is realizing that something is very, very wrong. He looks down, there is blood everywhere. He realizes a part of him is missing, a very important part. He starts screaming. He grabs a sheet, wraps himself up, and stumbles out of the apartment. He manages to get a friend to drive him to the Prince William Hospital. He stumbles into the ER. My wife, she cut it off. The doctors are stunned. They stabilize him, but they have a question. Where is it? John doesn't know. Lorena has it. Or had it. The police get the call. And now we enter the phase of the story that sounds like a sketch comedy routine, but actually happened. It's 4 a.m. The police have Lorena in custody. She tells them she threw it out the window near the 7-Eleven. So now you have a team of serious, trained police officers and a canine unit forming a human chain, walking slowly through a grassy field in the middle of the night. They are looking for a needle in a haystack, and except it's not a needle and it's not a haystack. They are combing through the weeds, flashlights sweeping back and forth. Do you see anything? Nope, just a soda can. Keep looking. Imagine being the rookie cop on that shift. You sign up to fight crime, save lives, be a hero. And here you are, parting the tall grass, looking for John Wayne Bobbitt's missing soldier. For a while, they can't find it. They're worried a stray dog might get to it. Time is ticking. Tissue dies. If they don't find it soon, John is going to be singing soprano for the rest of his life. Finally, after what feels like forever, an officer spots it. I got it! There it is, lying in the grass. But now they have a new problem. They need to transport it to the hospital immediately, and it needs to be on ice. But police cars aren't exactly equipped with organ transplant coolers. They look around. They are right next to a 7-Eleven. They run into the convenience store. The clerk is probably standing there like, what is going on? The cops grab a bag of ice. And they grab a box. A hot dog box. You know the ones, the little cardboard trays. They scoop up the member, put it in the hot dog box, pack it with ice, and rush it to the hospital. I swear to you, I am not making this up. The most famous organ in American history was transported in a 7-Eleven hot dog container. You cannot write this stuff. They get to the hospital. A team of plastic surgeons led by Dr. David Berman and Dr. James Cedaram are waiting. They prep John for surgery. This is a microscopic reattachment. It takes 9.5 hours. They have to reconnect arteries, veins, nerves, the urethra. It is incredibly complex medical work. And miraculously, they do it. They reattach it. When John wakes up, the doctors tell him the good news. It's back on. It's going to be a long recovery, but functionally, he should be okay. But while John is recovering in his hospital bed, the world outside is exploding. The story hits the newswire. Wife cuts off husband's penis. It goes global instantly. This was before Twitter, before TikTok. This was the era of the 24-hour news cycle, and CNN ate this up. It was shocking, it was gruesome, but mostly it was funny to people. It became the butt of every single joke in America. Jay Leno, David Letterman, Howard Stern, they couldn't stop talking about it. SNL did skits. There were Lorena Bobbitt jokes around every water cooler in every office in the country. People took sides immediately. You were either Team John or Team Lorena. Team John said, she's a psycho. You can't just go around chopping people up. She's a man-hater. Lorena said, he beat her for years. He raped her. She snapped. It was self-defense. Feminist groups rallied around Lorena, pointing out that the system had failed to protect her from domestic violence. Men's rights groups rallied around John, terrified that this would start a trend. It was a gender war played out in the tabloids. Lorena was arrested and charged with malicious wounding, which carries a heavy prison sentence. John, meanwhile, was charged with marital sexual assault. So we have two trials, the trials of the century, at least until O.J. Simpson came along a year later. John's trial is first. He's facing the assault charges. His defense is, he says the sex was consensual. He paints himself as a victim of a crazy, jealous wife. He says she was mad because he was going to leave her. The jury listens to the evidence. It's a he said, she said situation. And remember, this is the early 90s. The jury deliberates, and they find John Wayne Bobbitt not guilty of sexual assault. He walks free. He's got his freedom, and he's got his reattached member. He starts doing a victory lap in the media. Then it's Lorena's turn. Her trial is the main event. The courtroom is packed. The cameras are rolling. Her lawyers don't deny she did it. Obviously, she threw it out a car window. That's hard to deny. Their defense is temporary insanity and battered woman syndrome. They argue that the years of physical and psychological abuse combined with the trauma of the rape that night caused a episodic break. She didn't know right from wrong in that moment. She was driven by an irresistible impulse. Lorena takes the stand, and this is where the mood shifts. She isn't the crazy slasher the media portrayed. She's small. She's quiet. She's terrified. She weeps as she describes the beatings. She talks about the forced abortion. She details the rape. The jury and the public watching at home starts to see the reality of her life. It stops being a punchline and starts being a tragedy. The prosecution tries to paint her as vindictive. They say she waited until he was asleep, which proves premeditation. They say she was just angry and jealous. The jury goes out to deliberate. The whole country is holding its breath. Is she going to prison for 20 years? Is she walking free? The verdict comes back, not guilty by reason of insanity. The courtroom erupts. Lorena is sent to a mental hospital for a 45-day evaluation period, but she won't go to prison. She is released. Now, you'd think this is where the story ends. They both go their separate ways, fade into obscurity, and try to heal. Nope, this is America, and John Wayne Bobbitt decided he was a celebrity. While Lorena tried to change her name and hide from the cameras, John ran towards them with open arms. He realized he was famous for one thing, his junk. So he decided to monetize it. This guy's post-trial career is absolutely unhinged. First, he forms a band. He calls it The Severed Parts. I am not kidding. He tries to tour. It's a disaster. Nobody wants to hear him sing. They just want to stare at his crotch. Then he realizes where the real money is. The adult film industry comes calling. They offer him a contract, and John says yes. He stars in a movie called John Wayne Bobbitt Uncut. The tagline alone is enough to make you cringe. He goes on a media tour to promote it. He's on Howard Stern constantly. Howard Stern treats him like a whack-packer, a circus freak. John plays along. He seems to love the attention. He's signing autographs. He's doing appearances at strip clubs. He is milking his 15 minutes of fame for every single second it can get. But wait, it gets weirder. He decides his reattached member isn't impressive enough for the movies. So he gets enlargement surgery. And who pays for it? Does he save up his money? No. Howard Stern and his fans raised the money for it on the radio. They crowdfunded a penis enlargement for John Wayne Bobbitt.
He then makes another movie called Frankenpenis. You literally cannot make this up. It's like a fever dream of 90s trash culture. He even tries professional wrestling. He appears on WWE, then WWF, Monday Night Raw. He gets in the ring. Why? I have no idea. But there he is, grappling with Val Venus, continuing to turn his trauma into a paycheck. But the fun celebrity life doesn't last. John is still John. The drinking doesn't stop. The anger issues don't stop. Over the next few years, his life spirals. He gets arrested again and again. He's charged with battery against his new fiancée. He spends time in jail. He gets arrested in Las Vegas for battery against his third wife. It turns out the abuse wasn't just a reaction to Lorena, it was a pattern. It was who he was. The guy was a walking red flag who happened to get famous for being a victim. Eventually, the enlargement surgery goes wrong. I guess nature isn't meant to be tampered with that many times. He has complications, it looks weird. He has to get surgery to reverse it. He ends up broke, in and out of legal trouble, working odd jobs, and eventually becoming a cautionary tale about D-list fame. And Lorena? She took a completely different path. She reverted to her maiden name, Lorena Gallo. She stayed out of the limelight for a long time. She went back to school. She rebuilt her life. But she didn't disappear completely. As the years went on, the culture changed. People stopped laughing at the jokes and started realizing how messed up her situation was. We started taking domestic violence more seriously. Lorena realized she had a voice. She started a foundation, Lorena's Red Wagon, to help victims of domestic violence. She became an advocate. She started speaking out, not to get famous, but to warn other women. She wanted to make sure no one else felt so trapped that they thought a kitchen knife was their only exit strategy. She gave interviews where she looked dignified, smart, and healed. She even reconnected with John years later for a TV special, and the contrast was stark. She was composed, he was still kind of a mess. She apologized for hurting him, but she stood by her reasons. She forgave, but she didn't forget. So, what do we learn? From the Ballad of John and Lorena. First off, if you're in a toxic relationship, get out before the cutlery gets involved. Seriously, there is no winning a fight like that. Second, the media is a monster. They took a tragedy involving rape and mutilation and turned it into a comedy routine. They dehumanized both of them for ratings. And third, you can survive the worst day of your life. Lorena Gallo was known as the crazy penis cutter for years. She was a punchline, but she refused to let that be her legacy. She took control of the narrative and turned her trauma into advocacy. That is a serious flex. John is John. He's a reminder that some people never learn, no matter how many times life, or a knife, cuts them down to size. This case was the beginning of the reality TV era. It showed us that we are obsessed with other people's misery. We love the drama, the gore, the scandal. But behind the headlines, there were real people whose lives were completely destroyed in a single night. So, next time you're arguing with your partner, take a breath, walk away, cool off, because you do not want to end up searching for your dignity or anything else in a roadside field at 4 a.m. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane to the wildest moment of the 90s, make sure you hit that like button. Tell me in the comments, do you think the jury got it right? Was it self-defense or did she go too far? I read every comment and I know you guys have opinions on this one. Until next time, stay safe, keep the knives in the drawer, and I'm out.